Never give up. You're about to listen to the DarlaZ, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Award-winning singer-songwriter DarlaZ brings you her special guests who share intimate stories about their lives, how they became successful in their chosen fields, how they learned from their mistakes, and how we can all make a positive difference in the lives of others. Welcome to Live from the Hollywood Room with your host, DarlaZ.
DarlaZ, and I am here representing on my new show for the Bootleggers radio show. Bootleggers can be seen worldwide, and we're in 7 continents and over 150 countries. We believe in inspiring and encouraging others and talking about what we can do to make the world a better place. And we're just so excited to have Kitt Wakeley, a dear friend and a colleague, joining us today. So hi Kitt.
Hi. Congrats on everything, the show, everything that's just been kind of gaining momentum for you, and especially, like I say, and thanks for having me a part of it. So I'm honored.
Oh, it's an honor. You are so recognized. You're, of course, a Grammy Award winner. You know that. Composer, producer. You're a songwriter. You've done rock. You've done across the board genres. Rock, classical, EDM. It's just very impressive, your resume of music. And before we get into all of that, what I'd like to do is kind of start, have our listeners hear about how you started your career and what was your inspiration and to be the man you are today.
Oh, that covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
It does. We've got like 3 hours.
I do. Okay. Well, I'm good in small doses, so let's try for 3 minutes. As far as a path in music, it's not a lot different than a lot of people. I started out in elementary school band, learning how to play an instrument, and then you just kind of start to migrate towards what makes you feel most comfortable. And for me, I started out with trumpet, but I really liked keyboards, guitar and drums and things. And so that really created my path there. But it was, my love for rock music in 80s and 90s, music that really made me continue to get more involved in bands and things like that. But as far as it was also kind of a God thing, because as I tell people all the time, when you come from a foster care program, you're adopted and things, you're still trying to find your identity, and music was a huge opportunity for me to go, oh, I have a place I belong. Even if I didn't feel like I had a place to belong, it was the one place where I could control me, no one else. And that elementary school opportunity, love for music, that was the initial seed for why we're talking today. But is there something?
Can I ask you though, can I find out what was your favorite rock band?
Oh God, it depended on the day. I mean, because I was a Motley Crue Ozzy guy, I was a Van Halen guy, and then I had that, I had the Michael Jackson and Tears for Fears and anything 80s and you name it. And then I would be geeking out over the music from Superman or Rocky or whatever. I listened to it all. So if you were a hair metal band, I was probably jamming out to you the most. But
Excellent. Well, I'm an 80s chick myself, and so I really Tears for Fears. That's one of my favorite groups from back then, and I listened to a lot of Van Halen, and unfortunately, AC/DC.
I still use Tears for Fears guitarist on some stuff for some of my music now.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
We actually had them booked. Because we were producing a lot of concerts back then, and we had them booked for like a 16-day tour, and then they had a fight between the two of them, and they broke up right when we were, and the price was right. We had a national, and we didn't get to do the tour. So it's kind of like a love-hate relationship with Tears for Fears. So you've got a Grammy, but first, wait a minute. So the Macedonia, let me get back to that first one. What made you go to Spain to record that with the Macedonia choir? And what was that prompted you to do that?
You know, if we just talk, my love is rock and pop, and you know, and although I had a huge affection for soundtrack music and things like that, I never dreamt that I would ever do an orchestral album. But a friend of mine was getting married, and I didn't know what to get him for their wedding. They're like mega wealthy. There's nothing I'm going to get them that is probably not going to end up in a storage closet somewhere or regifted garage sale. And a friend of mine said, you should write them a song. And I had been doing a lot of sync music and placement at the time, where I messed with orchestral elements, and I really loved orchestral with rock. And so a friend of mine had said, well, why don't you write them a song for their wedding? I thought, well, that's kind of cheesy, but I didn't have anything left. I mean, I had nothing, so I did it. And this guy is a very stoic, very, very, I don't want to say stone cold, but or callous, but he's just not an emotional person. And I recorded the tune just using MIDI, but made it sound as real as I could. And he called, and he was just, I could hear tears on his voice, in his voice. I'm like, whoa, John, really? I think he's crying. He will never admit to that. And he said, why are you messing around with all this rock music? Why are you, oh my God, this is what you need to be doing. And I'll never forget a interview with Dave Grohl, one of my favorite bands, Foo Fighters, Nirvana. And he said, you know, people think I listen to rock music all day. That's what I play. That's the lane where I've had success. But my love is New Orleans jazz. That's what you'll hear me listening to. And that's why I thought it gave me permission to go, you know what? If I'm good at orchestral music, that's going to be my lane. I can still listen to whatever I want on my own private playlist, Motley Crue, whoever it may be. And so I thought, okay, let's do this. So I wrote several tunes. I didn't know what I was doing. So I thought I'll start with the Macedonian Orchestra, which was way up there out of my league, but it still worked. And my desire to make sure I had everything right and not embarrass myself, you know, in front of this big orchestra, paid off. And it opened up a lot of doors for me. And it was the first time I ever heard 80 musicians coming at me as an orchestra. And here's this Motley Crue loving guy when, oh my God, this is more powerful than I could ever imagine. So
yes, I can imagine.
Macedonia, that album really set the tone for me to go, okay, I can have a lane that I can really love music, but it doesn't mean that I've given up the music I love.
That's great. That's great. And what a gift. And then the next one that was the Saints one that we were talking about. What's the full name of that title?
Sinners and Saints.
Right. And your first 3 releases were on Billboard's top #1.
Yes, they went to Hard Rock. So you got 3 #1s on Hard Rock, and they were all over the place after that. Those particular 3 tunes were top rock song, top. I mean, they were all. I think we had 11 between those 3, 11 Billboard placements, either in rock, hard rock, you name it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you something. When you accomplished that, which is awesome, because that's the public, you know, the Grammys are wonderful. You get voted, but when you're topping the Billboard charts, you've got global interest. And how did that make you feel? I mean, like, what did you do that night, or those nights when they were topping the charts? Explain to me how you celebrated.
You know, for me, I just felt so overjoyed that on the first one that, I mean, I was just calling all my friends and letting them know about it. I was posting about it. But I didn't think to celebrate it. What happened was I went to some friends of mine's house later that evening under a premise for something else. And it was actually a celebration of, they had the music playing, they had a cake and congratulations. So we got to celebrate that night. And your phone starts ringing. That was, I thought it was going to be a big life-changing moment. I don't know whether it definitively was, but I just felt like, wow, I've worked so hard all these years. Wow, I belong, so to speak. I think that was probably the thing I thought, I belong.
So, and what a wonderful feeling that had to have been. It's kind of surreal, probably, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So then your next project was this adoption story, right? And
Yes.
so tell me, what was your inspiration behind the album that this is the album that you did receive the Grammy for? And just an incredible accomplishment. So tell me that. Tell me what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, the adoption story, it was supposed to be the sequel to Symphonies and Sinners and Saints 2. And what happened was I was done recording it. I was coming back from London, and a buddy of mine happened to call me while I was literally getting on the plane and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Have you been paying attention on social media? I've been in London the whole week." And he asked if I was going to submit it for a Grammy, and I said no, because I still have all these rock musicians that are going to play on it. And he just said, "Well, why are you going to put rock music to it? Why don't you just release it as an orchestral album?" I said, "Well, that's not who I am." And he said, I know, but just give it a shot." And so on my way back, I called my producers, who had never worked with a producer. I've always been the boss. I either produce my own projects or I produce others. So I called a couple of really sweet, wonderful, incredible reputation duo, Star Brody and Jeff Fair, and said, "Hey, would you be interested?" And they were like, "Absolutely." So we took those tracks from the London Symphony at Abbey Road and made sure none of the rock elements were there, and we made it pure orchestral. And then we were trying to define, well, what's the name of the album? What's this? What's that? And I don't normally share anything personal. If you can watch social media, you will never see anything about me really, truly personal. I convey that you know who I am and what I do, but the personal side really doesn't ever come out. And so my producers, they kept asking me, what were you thinking when you wrote this song? What were you thinking when you wrote that song? And I just gave them snippets, and they're like, "So this is all about how you ended up to this day adopting 3 kiddos." I said, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." And that's how we came up with the theme of an adoption story. And so almost through therapy, we realized which songs should be on the album. Not all of them made it to it, mainly because of
Did you say
time.
through therapy?
Yeah, I felt like it was therapy because they
Okay.
kept asking me, "Tell me what you meant when you wrote this. Tell me what you meant by
Okay.
you wrote that." And so I literally had to divulge secrets that I don't talk about in person. Now everyone knows the full story from network television or whatever. But so they were able to we picked the songs that would be most the easiest to work with for the album. Identified the theme being an adoption story for me through the time that I was adopted, through the time that we did adopt. And when you have an album like that has purpose, and there's just a lot in there as far as creativity and heart, it starts to speak for itself.
Yeah, and it does speak, and it does speak to a lot of people, and it's an inspiration, the story that you have growing up. And then I love children, and I love the fact that you adopted 3 kids, and I see their pictures sometimes on social media, and they look like they have a lot of fun, and they're musicians too, right?
I just chased one off. There's a guitar over there. I chased him out, and I chased the drummer off a minute ago. They all take drums and guitar and violin and everything around here, not because we make them. They want to take those instruments. So our house is full of music.
That's awesome. It was funny. We were talking before we started recording, and our rooms are very similar. You have more guitars than me, though. I'm kind of ticked about that.
Yeah, I can take it down.
Now, oh, and also I wanted to ask you, because Paul Jones, he's the owner of Bootleggers Radio, and he said that the guitar part on your third one that was released, was it Cricken? Starts with a CR on the Saints here.
Oh,
I mean,
completely.
it was the Saints album, and he said that it was all guitar, and he said that it was Conflicted is what it was.
Conflicted, yeah,
He
yeah.
wants to know who that guitar player was.
Joe Satriani.
Who?
Joe Satriani.
Okay. He
Joe
was
Satriani is probably, people are gonna argue who's the best guitar player in the world right now, and he's gonna be, it's either gonna be him or his best friend Steve Vai. They're usually, or their other best friend Nuno Betancourt. All three, yeah, they're actually all three on my albums. They all play on my albums, and they're all three considered. It's a nice, who's the best guitarist, and Joe's one of those.
Yeah, well, he was very impressed, so he wanted me to find out.
That was
So,
amazing.
and then as far as your project that you've got going on right now, which is really amazing, and of course, well, from the 80s, you said you liked Michael Jackson, and just recently I went to a concert with and met Lionel Richie, such a really cool man. But so I did not realize that Lionel and Michael Jackson had written "We Are the World." And of course, it was produced by Quincy Jones, and then it had all those artists coming in, and it was all to help the famine in Africa and to create awareness of that. So, and I play that song a lot. I posted on social media because of its meaning. And I loved how all the artists got together to sing something that mattered. So your new project, it sounds like this is the same mission, and it's for a very worthy awareness project of ALS. And some people may not realize that ALS is Lou Gehrig's disease.
Correct.
Is that correct? That's correct, right? And so I want to hear about it from beginning to end, how I'm so impressed with it, and I'm so excited. The album is going to be released like August, maybe 22nd, something like that.
August 23rd.
23rd, and it's to create global awareness. So if you could just take us along your path.
Yeah, so Aaron Lazar is a Broadway actor, star of Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera. Sting
Huge.
had a play called The Last Ship on Broadway, and Aaron, you could see him acting across from Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever it may be. He was diagnosed with ALS. If you don't know anything about ALS, it's probably, I think, the absolute most cruel disease that out there. I get it. I can argue that cancer is, I can argue the Alzheimer's, et cetera, but there's so many other elements about ALS that people don't know. And so when I heard about this, they asked if I'd be willing to produce the album. And at first I said no, because my bandwidth, they had a very limited budget. And then they came back and they said, well, what if we told you Sting was the first artist that signed up for it? Well, that sweetens the pot. But
I saw that.
And they told me that Neil Patrick Harris had signed on, and all these other stars had signed on. And I thought, you know what, let's do this. And I knew what it was going to take. And we're talking 9 studios, 7 different engineers. We're talking over 200 musicians, 50 staff. I could go on and on and on. It's just $100,000 easy project. And I knew it was going to dominate a lot of my time with the media, PR attorneys. I could just go on and on. But I thought, hey, ALS, Aaron, great guy, all these other people, let's just go make this happen. So that's the seed. Sting wrote a particular song. It was released several years ago, did really well, called Let Your Soul Be Your Pilot. Josh Groban decided, no, I want to be the one to sing that one. And
So Sting wrote it for this project.
no, Sting wrote it years ago, and
Okay.
it was a hit for him. And he was going to sing this one, but
Okay.
Josh Groban decided, no, I like it. What if we slowed this thing down and took all the pop elements out of it and just really made a beautiful,
I love Josh Groban myself.
Josh is an amazing, and Sting is amazing. They all are.
Yeah.
And we were pretty much done recording the arrangement. And Josh just kind of looked up to the control booth and said, what would happen if we just stripped it all away and just with piano, me, Aaron, and maybe come up with some subtle things later. And we turned out the lights to the studio. We repositioned the mics on the piano, brought out one mic just for Aaron and Josh. And I think we kept 90% of the first take. And
Wow.
there was not a dry eye in the house, because when you listen to that song, here's a dying man. Let's call what it is. He's telling you, doctor's got no cure. There's nothing in the medicine cabinet going to cure this ill. Your friends can't console you.
Yeah.
This is it. And this man is saying this. Josh Groban is adding his magic. And then, of course, the lyrics end with, and very appropriately, where Josh comes back in, he says in the lyrics, you know, I'm going to let your sorrow be my sorrow. Your tears are going to be my tears. I'm going to let your courage be my model of how I conduct myself. So when you hear that song being done the way it is,
Yeah.
and then you listen to the rest of the album, it is just, I'm so glad I said yes, you know?
I mean, that just got to me just hearing the story of that song. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like for everybody to hear it and feel the music that you guys created.
If you know, we all have our little wants and ifs and wish and things like that. I hope everybody who has a struggle, whether it's health related, financial related, whatever, they will rely on this song and reflect on it. Because I just don't think there's a better. Sting knew what he was doing when he wrote that song.
I can hardly wait to hear it.
He's amazing. And part of that, so we have Neil Patrick Harris, we have all these stars, but I knew it was a big project, but it was a vision of one of the other producers to have this "We Are the World" vibe at New York, at Power Station, New York. We're gonna have all these Broadway stars. We're gonna have 40 of them in there, and they're all gonna be there. We're gonna sing this song called "The Impossible Dream." It's gonna be awesome.
I mean, what a song! The best song.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And I mean, you don't realize when you're going, okay, well, Sting will sing this line, Kristen Chenoweth will sing this line, then we'll have Neil Patrick Harris sing this, and okay, well, we already got them doing a duet, and you're doing this chess match of who's going to sing what. And I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. Yeah. But then when you get there, and there's media everywhere, and there's cameras everywhere, and all these Broadway legends and stars are starting to pour through the door, you're like, oh my God. And one of the, I don't know, it was Billboard magazine, which magazine commented to me, they said, you know, this is like the We Are the World of Broadway. Yeah, we got something here. And then it was just an amazing day of recording that project. But what hit me was I was doing my interview with Good Morning America. There's all these other cameras around. And I think it was the first or second question they asked me, what's it like to produce Broadway history? I'm like, oh my God, we're doing something pretty amazing.
Another first.
Yeah. And I said, you know, I gathered my thoughts pretty quickly, because it had nothing to do with me. It has to do with the fact this guy, Aaron Lazar, is such an anchor to be able to attract all these Broadway people, 200 musicians, and all these engineers and staff to create that day that I'm such a small part of it. I just happened to kind of fell bass backwards into it and said yes, 4 months prior to that. But it's an amazing song. When you see the video that Jonathan Estabrooks did of it, you're just going to be blown away. And my footnote to that day is the final note on that song. You have these 40 Broadway stars.
Yeah.
They sang it so loudly that our Apple Watches were all going off.
Okay, yeah.
The decibel warnings were going off on all our watches. It was so loud. So amazing day. Could probably talk about that day itself and the album for months. But those are some highlights. And I really appreciate the fact that you bring it up, because remember I said with an adoption story, there's this and sometimes you just have that passion and something really good-willed about a project, and there's authenticity. I'm blessed because this one has one as well. And just
I mean, we are the world. We're talking about it now. So that was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And and I've never seen anything like that since, you know. And then when I saw, you know, Kelly O'Hara and Josh Groban and Kristen Chenoweth, who I've met before, and such a sweet lady.
Kristen is a sweetie.
Isn't she? Little bitty. She's so little.
And I mean that in the most awesome way. She didn't mean to. She just walks in and she's this ball of fire and energy and love. She
packs a punch, that girl. So, and she was so sweet. I sang the national anthem for the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, and sat at the table with her and her agent, and she was the sweetest, kindest person. When I got done, she jumped up, like one of the first people to give me a standing ovation, and I just thought that was really cool of her. But no, so you've made history. This is 40 years later. We've got something moving with a song. I mean, I have the album over there on my record player. I have Ed Ames singing The Impossible Dream, because it's one of my favorite songs. And to hear what is going to be coming out, I can only imagine how moving, because the lyrics are so powerful. And so do you know what made him pick? I mean, was it Aaron who picked that song, or who picked that song? Why?
Aaron picked it. You know, I mean, the name of the album is Impossible Dream. Yeah. And it's actually a play on it. It's actually I'm Possible Dream. And that song is just one that has resonated with him through the years. And to speak freely, when you're looking at the path and the journey that Aaron's on, I feel like it's a pretty fitting song. You know, it's kind of, look, this is the path we're going. Don't tell me what we can or cannot dream, what we can or cannot do. But then it's just clouded with all these other subtleties of this Broadway community surrounding Aaron, and together they're making this incredible recording. Together they're supporting a cause. Together they are. I mean, I don't think there's all the paths, all the arrows point right back to that song, and I think it was just the right decision for Aaron to pick that one. It was one of his favorites, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and I think the love, I'm sure, that he felt, and with everybody doing the recordings, each one pitching in to create this massive union of love and awareness is just a beautiful thing. And like I said, I can hardly wait. I am going to be the first one. Well, I don't know if I'll be the first one, because I think there's going to be a global rush on when that album comes out. But I certainly am going to be one of the first to purchase this album that I can hardly wait to hear.
Thank you.
Now, let me ask you something, and we'll, I want to know what's next with you. And then I'm going to give you my signature question.
I don't know what's next, because I didn't. I've recorded. I just got back from recording my own album for 2025, and then
is there a theme to it?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. Maybe we can talk about it more later. But I wanted to have I don't like doing an album just to do an album. I enjoy that, but I learned from an adoption story from this project, obviously, but I want to do a project that always has meaning. So what I did was I reflected on a lot of tragedy. Let's take the Oklahoma City bombing. Let's take 9/11. We had a very well-known basketball coach here who lost some of his family through a car wreck. We've had friends literally pass away in the past few months of ALS. We had friends who found out that they had ALS. We're talking just right here locally here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I did interviews with people that you would know who they are, related to all these days of tragedy, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out is after doing about 30 of these interviews, maybe it was your husband came in and said, I want a divorce. You lost your job. I mean, think of the scenario. There's a day of tragedy. And so when I did the interviews, I literally just found the common denominator. And there were 7 seasons, if you want to call it that, kind of like our stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
There's always the day before. You don't know what's coming. Life's grand. The birds are chirping. The butterflies are doing their thing. The grass is green, blues, whatever. You don't know that someone's going to drive a rider truck in front of a building or fly a plane into a building. You don't know that your spouse is going to send you a divorce, decree. You don't know. You name it. And then there's the day of. Then there's the next day of what just happened. Not what, but it's that day of disbelief. Then there's why. Why in hell would anybody get behind a wheel with alcohol, make that decision, and kill my wife and kids?
Yeah.
Then there's these resolutions. For example, now people sometimes will say, assume you lost your son in a car wreck because of drunk driving. Who knew that you would now be the biggest spokesperson for drunk driving? Who knew that you were going to be the spokesperson for, trauma, whatever it might be? Who knew that it would lead the person who you met that day on the Oklahoma City bombing, that's who you're going to be married to someday?
Yeah.
So there's always that resolution.
Out of the ashes type thing.
Exactly. And that probably could have been one of the titles. So there's 7 seasons. Every one of those people and every one of those interviews had the same exact verbiage at some point in their conversation. So that's what the album is about. It's 7 songs. It's called 7 Seasons. And each song is.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Each song does its own progression. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the last one is a happy song.
Yeah. So that one's coming out. But I never dreamt that my path would be producing as much as it is. Producing it depends on which level you want me on and how, but that's what has my phone ringing off the hook, from jazz.
I mean, you're always
rock, and
you're always everywhere. I mean, the travel that you do, I mean, you're in London, LA, you're everywhere. You're everywhere.
I think you may have saw my social media. I had to finalize a session that had needed to take place. I was in Miami. I ended up just like doing this session from an airport bar in Miami, waiting on a flight.
Wow.
While the session's being recorded in LA, that's the only way we could get it all done. So,
well, you got to make do, and you're sought after. And I'm jealous that you've been able to record at the Abbey Road Studios. That has to be just cooler than anything.
Oh, we're going to get you there. Don't worry about it. We're going to get you there.
I'm ready. I'm ready to.
You think I'm kidding? I've already plotted it out for you, what you guys can do. It's going to be amazing.
Yay. Well, that's good, because you're going to be my producer. Oh, I love it. So this would be my final question for you, Kitt. And I just want to tell you again, thank you so much for for your time, and I know you're very busy right now, and I just, it's such a joy to talk to you, and you've got such a good soul and a good heart, and I love that. I love that. And musicians, we all respect each other so much, and I really respect you as a musician. Um, so just for the guy that's watching this, that is you at 19 or 20 years old, and with the same dreams and the same abilities that you had then, and here you are today, what piece of advice would you give that young man or young woman or person? What would you tell them how they can pursue their dreams?
It's it's not a canned answer. It's the thing that we all have our way that we think to answer that question. For me, I always tell people, let's just start here. You're never failing. You're always learning. And you just don't take the word no. And so once you have those two things in line, then you ask yourself, okay, what's your vision? What's your purpose? And that's not new philosophy. We that's been around a long time. And so if your vision is to make music someday, all right, what's your purpose? And does that line up? So my purpose for many years, I didn't know it yet, wasn't music yet. My purpose was to raise a family. My purpose was to do a lot of things before I could get to my vision. But once that vision and that purpose lines up, now all those things that you thought you were failing at, all those things that you thought that you weren't good enough at, and not taking the word no, now all that stuff starts to line up. So do you feel like you have the talent? Do you feel like you have the vision and purpose? All right, then go. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. Don't let anyone sideline you for any reason. Don't let others define you. Don't let others, it's just don't let others. And for yourself, if you'll just be on time, don't be a jerk. And I've cleaned that up a lot. But, you know, it's so cliche, but we hear all the time, you know, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. If you're sitting around one day and tired of telling people, you know, hearing people tell you you can't do something,
Yeah.
don't listen to that. Don't let that define you. And you just keep doing it every day, and you be nice and you work hard. It does happen. It truly does happen. May not be on our timeline, but I just hate it because it's so cliche that don't give up. But that's what I
No,
tell.
but that's the common denominator, that because that's what you know, my theme behind this show is the movers and shakers of the world, and those who make a difference globally. And the common denominator is always people told them they couldn't do it, and they didn't listen to them, and they persevered. It's the Wendy's concept of the guy who said, everybody said I couldn't do it. Who'd make a square burger? But it's that theory. So no, it's not cliche. I think it's wonderful, and I don't think you can hear it enough.
You know, there's the thing is, I do a lot of guest speaking, and a lot of times that 20-minute speech is hard to entail what I just said. So, but it really is. It's all about what's your vision, what's your purpose. Are you going to give up or not? You know, if and then surround yourself with people that believe in you as well.
So true.
We all know that, you know, look to your left, you look to your right. That's probably going to determine a lot of your future right there. So
That's really true. I wouldn't have gone as far as I have without the help of my husband, Bill, who pushes me constantly. So yes, you have to be surrounded. And when I asked Harold Hamm one time what was his secret to success, and he said, surround yourself with great people. So I totally agree with that. Kitt, again, I want to tell you just what an honor it was to have you. And thank you so much from Bootleggers Radio and from here in the Hollywood Room. Thank you so much for being with us today, and for your words of wisdom and your beautiful soul and your beautiful music.
Thank you. I'm honored.
You have been listening to DarlaZ, live from the Hollywood Room on the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Be sure to check out all our shows and download our app at www.bootleggersmusicgroup.com. The Bootleggers Music Group is dedicated to bringing you uplifting, educational, and inspiring shows for the love of God, one tune, and one show at a time. Be sure to visit DarlaZ at www.darlaz.com to learn more about your award-winning host. Thanks for listening to or watching the Bootleggers Music Group Radio. Executive Producer, Paul E. Jones.